Alright guys, back again. Give us a moment, I just gotta get seated. This is gonna be my video on the Monday Night War, if you wanna call it that. The return of the Monday Night War for one night only. Obviously I watched both shows being in England, it's not gonna be head to head for me. So I watched Raw first and then I watched Impact afterwards. And there was some good and there was some bad and not so good. Starting with Impact, because that was the one that I still fresh in my mind right now. Impact was not a bad show. I'm gonna say that it wasn't a bad, terrible show at all by any stretch. It was not awful. I think it was actually one of the better shows that they've done under the Vince Russo regime. But here's the problem. All right, first of all, the surprises were but there was many surprises. I thought the Impact show delivered on surprises, meaning, wow, this person's here. Wow, this has happened. Wow, that's happened. However, there were so many of these surprises that it was hard for me, the TV viewer, to digest them all in. And I think they diluted the impact, for lack of a better word, of each surprise. Now, there's one thing in particular, one of the surprises that happened, and that was Jeff Hardy re-emerging on TNA TV. Now, to me, being a Jeff Hardy fan, yeah, I'm ashamed to admit it, an internet wrestling guy who actually likes Jeff Hardy. To me, being a Jeff Hardy fan, and to me, just being a fan of WWE, Jeff Hardy is probably one of the biggest names currently out there. Based on his last WWE run, based on how his popularity tripled based on the fact that he did a good number for the Royal Rumble and the fact that there was a big demand for Jeff Hardy to win the belt from the fans and the fact that he's the hottest he was one of the hottest he was the hottest act in the WWE for the last 2 years. And arguably I'd say he's probably more relevant in today's wrestling scene than Hogan, Nash, Hall are right now. Considering all those things and considering the fact that if you want to say he left on his own terms, considering all those factors, you would think that when he comes onto TNA, it would be a much bigger deal. It wasn't. It was an anticlimax. Jeff Hardy shows up after the Terror Dome, whatever that thing is called, match. Comes in, does his, and Mike Tenay and Taz kind of undersell it, which didn't help. And he just kind of came in, and I think was it Homicide hit him in the head with something, and then he just beats Homicide and hits him with a chair, and then climbs on top on the asylum. And it was just like, it was Jeff Hardy, and it just came off as really anticlimactic. I think they should have done something a lot bigger with him. You know, I know it's early days, it's his first debut, but that debut really just kind of fell flat for me. But okay, that's just my opinion. Other things that stood out to me on the show, there were a lot of skits actually. It was quite skit heavy. They did a skit with the Beautiful People in strip poker with Val Venus of all people, which was like what? Um, I mean, some people like that, some people don't. But if you've got people out there saying, "Well, we want more wrestling and we're not getting it from Raw," you can't condone that skit. But I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It was just kind of hit, just for me. I'm surprised we didn't see Angelina Love because apparently she's just got her contract back. So I thought she was going to come in. So that was the only reason why I was kind of watching. I thought she was going to pop in over there. We saw ODB versus Tara, and to be honest with you, it's not that I've got anything against the two girls, but their feud has just been a washout for me. It's just done. It's done nothing for me. I mean, and I think they've kind of botched Tara being there. When she came in, she was special, and now unfortunately, she's running the risk of being just another woman. Sorry to say it, just another person on the contract now, and that's just like the specialness is starting to fade away. The tag team match with the women was actually pretty decent. Um, at least that was something, but I don't know. Again, I mean, at least they, did something good. I was a bit disappointed with the Desmond Wolf Burke match, not because they had a bad match, because they weren't. It was just so short, and then Orlando Jordan's popping up, and I'm thinking, okay, are TNA just signing anybody now for the sake of it? Because that's what it's starting to look like. And speaking of that, I see Bubba the Love Sponge backstage. Now, I like his radio show. I know not many people do, but I like his radio show. And now he's in TNA. Huh. As Truth Slayer said, it begins, my friends, because I'm sure Hogan had something to do with that. And then there was a skit backstage with the Nasty Boys. Okay, why are the Nasty Boys on TNA? This team probably peaked when I was 9. They were good when I was 9 years old or 8 years old. You don't necessarily need them, and they're getting a feud with Team 3D. I think that's a waste of time, to be honest with you. And there's no Beer Money Inc. from what I recall, and maybe they could have used this time to promote the Young Bucks, who they just signed to a deal. I mean, oh well. I mean, that was a shame. Ric Flair pops up. At least they made that feel important. Him coming out the limousine and people shaking his hand and clapping. At least that kind of made him feel important. I hope they get this one right. I'll be interested to see what his role is. I kind of chuckled to myself as he appeared because I keep remembering Flair showing up on the Legends of Wrestling Roundtable discussion and burying TNA, saying Vince Russo's working in the toilet can, they're working for TNA. What is TNA? I wouldn't be surprised now that they're signing his checks if he comes out and says, TNA is the greatest wrestling company ever. I won't be surprised. But, you know, anything Flair says now, I don't take too seriously. But, alright, we'll see how that goes. I mean, God bless AJ and Angle for having the match that they did. It's a shame they didn't advertise that because I think that could have really swayed more people over to watching Impact because that match was really good. And, you know, I mean, come on, it's Kurt Angle and AJ Styles. They're never going to have a bad match together. Um, the other thing that stood out to me was this Hogan promo that they had. Now, it felt like WCW Nitro again. Not that that's a bad thing, but that's not necessarily a great thing. You've got Hogan coming out talking about, you know, change and this being about the young guys. And you've got Hall and Waltman in the crowd. And sorry, but Sean Waltman needs a new wardrobe. I mean, he looks like something stuck in the 80s from some 80s band with that outfit. But, I mean, I like him. He's a very talented guy. And they basically did like their NWO routine, and then Kevin Nash came out and then done his NWO routine, and then there's Sting watching from the rafters, and it just felt like watching Nitro in '97 again when I was 11 years old. We'll see where it goes. Um, I know. And then they was Jeff Jarrett was out, and Hogan, Hogan basically, you know, trashed him, and then they did this angle with Mick Foley, and um, gosh, Mick Foley looking for Hogan or something like that, and then it's a bit blurry now. I think Hall, Nash, and someone knocking him down or something, and they're just leaving it there, so that's the angle. Um, Actually, on the subject of Scott Hall, by the way, I thought if they're going to bring Scott Hall in, and you know a lot of people don't really, there's been a lot of discussion about bringing Hall in. If they were going to bring Scott Hall in, why not kind of revisit the thing with Samoa Joe? That would have made the most sense to me. Scott Hall is coming out, carrying on in his way. Why doesn't Samoa Joe come out and say, "Oh, Mr. Hall, nice you could finally make it after 3 years," and then basically revisit that shoot promo, if you want to say, that he cut on Scott Hall, and why not go there? That would have been interesting, and that would have been actually very captivating viewing if you've got that, and that would have actually stirred up some interest. Speaking of which, Samoa Joe didn't seem as important as he should have been, but I mean, I think if you're going to do a show like this, and I mean, it wasn't a bad show at all by any means. The thing is, some of the rub and some of the momentum needed to be in the people that are younger and are gonna. Some guys needed to get the rub, and I don't think the right guys got the rub. But I don't think it was necessarily a bad show. I mean, they did well, and I think what they should have emphasized more is that they have better wrestlers in their company and emphasize that more, and that's the advantage they would have had over Raw, as you'll see when I do the next video when I talk about Raw and what I saw in that. I mean, overall, I wouldn't say it was a bad show. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. There was some action, there was some things to enjoy, and I wouldn't necessarily say don't watch the show. Watch it and, you know, make your own conclusions. Don't do what a certain YouTuber suggests. Just support it for the sake of supporting it, which is something I'm against. Anyway, guys, that's the TNA video done. Now I'm going to do the Raw video. So let me know what you think, and that will be it for now.